The Matthew Dark Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, praise God and welcome in. Well, we're 100 days now into this Iran war, and I think it's important to look at how are we doing? Are we winning? Is it coming to an end? And as predicted, in fact, it hasn't even gotten started yet. So, of course, broadcasting here on Sunday, we have fresh attacks, Iran going into Israel. Of course, no real damage done, nobody hurt, injured, killed. So we're always grateful to that. And President Trump has actually announced sort of a ceasefire or no retaliation from Israel, saying it didn't hurt anybody. There's no need to escalate it. And again, this is a mess that he can no longer get out of on his own. He is going to have a change of heart, and the people around him are not capable of giving him that change of heart. They're saying, go further, go deeper. And of course, Lindsey Graham and that crowd, of course, President Trump endorsed Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is an Israel first Zionist, even over the United States. And yet somehow he was selected, endorsed by Donald Trump. So it's not going well for Donald Trump. And I think we all are on the same page that the vision of 2015, 2016, draining the swamp, no new wars, inflation, affordable America, all these things, those are like the wind. They are so far gone. You are never going to get close to that original Make America Great Again. And now we have a true mess on our hands. So looking at a couple of things that happened last week in particular, and this was what kind of was breathtaking. On one hand, you have intelligence here in the United States elevating Israel's potential spying capacity. Okay. This is what this is about: spying on America, spying on American politicians, spying on our government, our military. They are in that business, and other countries are too. So this isn't just an Israel thing. China does it. Russia does it. Countries that see us with a lot to get, they're going to do it. So we understand that goes on. That wasn't the point. The point is as they're elevating their categorization, meaning this is a to be taken seriously, not necessarily opponent, not necessarily an adversary. That's not where they wanted to declare, even though that's what it would be if you're the highest risk level spy. I don't know how that's an ally, but somehow in the American heart, we've been able to take that Judeo-Christian relationship and say, we love them regardless. Doesn't matter the conduct, doesn't matter the spying, doesn't matter the torment, the pain, the egging on of more and more wars, send your kids to die for our causes. Somehow we can't just declare them sort of the opponent enemy that they are. But we're going to find out. We're going to see this all play out in real time. And it's sad it had to get to this. It's sad that we had to get to a point where lives are going to be lost. This is a $2 billion a day war. That's what it's costing. That's the economic impact globally, is $2 billion a day for sure out of the United States pocket. Okay, so we are deteriorating, eroding the U.S. economy so that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. And again, they go back to that repeated line, and I know it worked because it did brainwash a lot of these war enthusiasts. That's the one they go with. That's the one that they celebrate. You can say all you want to oppose the war, but Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. You know, this was a good one. They did a good job. And the fact is they didn't have a nuclear weapon. They weren't on the verge of a nuclear weapon. And we were told that by high-level security national security advisors, as well as Joe Kent in the counterterrorism department, saying this was not on the table. We were under no immediate risk. And so we absolutely must stop and say, well, 100 days in, how are we doing? If you recall last week, Trump and the U.S. brokered a ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel. And of course, Israel is relentlessly bombing Beirut and Lebanon. In fact, they killed 2 more on Sunday. They're bombing apartment buildings. Please be clear. Israel is to do to Beirut as they did to Gaza. That is their next mission. President Trump said, stop it. And if you go and you remember where he called him crazy, you're the F word crazy. And that was confirmed as true for his Netanyahu now, his continued bombing of civilians in Lebanon, in Beirut. Okay. Well, why is this going on? He brokered a ceasefire last week, and the bombing never stopped. Netanyahu didn't listen. He's not respecting this. They are saying it's mission as operated, as we planned. We're going to continue this regardless of the U.S. So Trump actually has a chance right now to say, we're out. We don't care. This was a Sorry, we tried to be the good person. We tried to help you out. Israel, we knew you were up to something. We would pick you over Iran, but this has gotten too thick, too hairy, too scary, too expensive for us. And never forget, baby boomers listening, fixed income people, retirement age people, you cannot afford wars. Do you understand that? It's not in the budget to have increased groceries, increased gasoline, increased air conditioning costs, heating costs. It's not, you don't have it in the budget, right? So stop celebrating it, because running out of money in America should be a much greater fear than if Iran gets a nuclear weapon. But of course, it's not really about a nuclear weapon. This is a massive energy play by the United States, knowing a couple of things. They are not going to be the leader in AI. China will be the dominant party in AI. That's already on its way. Okay, they're advanced. They have a culture and a society that's built for AI and surveillance. They're trying to do that here with our data centers. Of course, these are surveillance centers. These are surveillance economies. These are programmable monies. These are 15-minute cities. These are the things that they talked to you about 5-6 years ago at COVID. 2030 is coming, being a very important year for all this globalism, New World Order stuff to take place. And it's happening before our very eyes. But what do we find? So many that will impact. It will have a negative impact on your life when your life is surveilled. Your car is attached to some kind of surveillance that they can turn on and off, like your money. Okay, if you've been a bad person, not done something. Oh, taxes, you won't have to worry about a late fee. They'll just take it right there, or you're frozen. You understand? So we're celebrating this, but we advertised it years ago at COVID as we got to do something about this. The New World Order is coming. And we thought, this is the play. This is why it was so genius. We thought the counter to the New World Order, this globalist takeover, now we know this Zionist takeover, we thought Donald Trump was going to throw that back, shove that back, rebuke that. And what did he do? He ushered it in. He, in fact, became one of the greatest cheerleaders for this AI revolution. I mean, he is all in. Not only is he insider trading and making a ton of money, we've seen this. He's averaging some 3,700 trades in a day, all these different moves. Of course, it's a machine doing it. And of course, it's in a blind trust. But do you think the people handling the president's money are not going to have inside access, early access to the stuff that the government is going to put major money behind? Of course, they're going to trade on that. And so he's making a fortune with that, while we simultaneously continue to suppress the Epstein files, the prosecution, and the eventual hanging of those that assaulted children. He's not championing the release of that and the prosecution of those men, but he wants AI, he wants foreign wars, he wants a big, big military, okay? And he wants to steal the energy, the oil. Now, this is not really the way the war is being advertised, but of course, the Strait of Hormuz sees about 20% of the world's oil go through it. Okay, so it has a major impact if that was somehow now rerouted to the United States, no longer to access that. China is now not like they currently are. They are right now in the driver's seat, but energy would be a weak spot for them. And that's why they always hate Russia, because Russia has all this independence. They are doing just fine without the United States supporting. Could you imagine if the Russians and the United States, the Americans, had a relationship of what's good business? You're going to stay on that side. We're going to stay on this side. You're going to do your thing. Don't mess with us, though, because you understand we can end it all for everybody. And I know you can do the same. So as gentlemen, let's just always make sure that we're keeping our economies affordable, our people content, and not stressing out over stuff that doesn't matter. I mean, could you imagine those two big powers? That would be for good. Of course, Russian Christian country, United States maybe once was a Christian country. We'll talk about J.D. Vance, because I think one of the stories that we have to get into is that we can't pretend that as a Christian nation, and this ties right into our biggest moment right here, because Iran has attacked Israel. Israel is being told, don't respond, don't do it, even though they continue to kill citizens in Lebanon, in Beirut, one of those beautiful cities in all of the world. They continued to do that against President Trump's wishes. Okay, so we have to understand we're at a critical moment, fork in the road, because now Iran has nothing to lose. Do you understand, with what we've done to them and had been doing to them for the 47 years, sanctions and hostility and a constant siding with whoever they're in conflict is, we want to team up and support countries like Iraq. And then, of course, we turn on Iraq, kill Saddam Hussein, and we play our disgusting globalist games ourselves, except this one now has a real serious consequences, has serious who says you survive this one as an empire? So they have a major problem with the Strait of Hormuz. Even though President Trump thinks it's open, it's closed and remains closed. They're not going to give that up. Okay, so they have that as a huge piece of leverage. Plus, they have the nuclear remnants, the materials. Plus, they've been using inexpensive drones to handle this first wave, while the U.S. has spent $20 million on a missile to take out a $20,000 drone. The math wasn't going to work for the United States. So now we've been under a ceasefire for so long that we can't really call it a war. We're just wasting resources. We're just paying daily to keep a presence there, ready to go at any moment. Right now, we, the American taxpayer, are paying for that. So we should ask, okay, so how are we doing? Not doing good, because guess what? Iran has no interest in working a negotiation under the terms of the United States and Israel, because they're all very, very bad for Iran. Right. So they're not in any hurry. President Trump doesn't think he's in a hurry. He needs to be in a pants on fire in a hurry, because he's about to get slaughtered in the midterms. And so many things that can happen negative to him before that, because he gets impeached next year. If there's even 1 ounce of Democrat control, he gets impeached. So that's his worst fear. We saw what they did to him when he was out of the office. He was being arrested. He was being charged. He was threatened with jail for life in one of his 4 different indictments. Okay. So those are all very real possibilities, of course, without a full pardon from J.D. Vance, and he will most likely have to exercise that, stepping down, receiving it, Nixon style. I don't think he's going to have a choice. He was a hated man the first term, and the first term he was not being exposed as this liar, and he didn't have the Epstein files on himself the first term, right? Jeffrey Epstein did not get hot until after, maybe 2021, 2022, it started building momentum that if Trump gets back in for 25 and on, we're going to get to the Epstein justice. Okay. Now that is all over him. And so many of his administration have lied, have perjured themselves. Kash Patel for sure, Pam Bondi for sure, Todd Blanche for sure, and then of course President Trump is echoing those lies that this is somehow a Democrat hoax, but yet it only involves Democrats on the naughty behavior, on the abuse of children. So he's all over the place, and it's because he's lying to us and has been lying to us. So for him, the solution was this Iran war at that time, because it wasn't, there was no time concern of it. It didn't have to be done today. It didn't have to be done next year. If he thinks that was the thing that he could be remembered for, is that he saved the world from Iran having a nuclear weapon, I don't think so. I don't think we heard enough about that passion. He would have been much better off going out with the accomplishment of the wall. Okay, not his ballroom, but maybe like the wall, or a budget deficit, a budget surplus, doing things that you could actually see real wages grow, home ownership start to tick up. I was the president that when they thought homes were impossible to buy, I got it done, or I laid the framework for an economy that young people could buy homes and start families and have children and enjoy this American dream. I'm the president that did that. I'm the president that went in and we got crime off the streets. We redid it. We got mental hospitals open back up, and all of our drug addicts, all of our homeless people, career drug addicts. What did I do? I started this campaign to get them off the streets, get them rehabilitated, get them educated, and get them into a workforce. But you can't be in a big city living on the streets anymore. I'm the president that ended all that. I'm the president that cleaned up our big cities. At least that was I'm the president that got the inner city violence in our Black neighborhoods and our Black and brown communities. I'm the one that got the crime down. I'm the one that said, we care, we see you. This isn't going to work anymore. We're coming for you. We see you, we hear you, we feel you. You see all these worthy, honorable. I don't think I was the president that stopped Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Nobody's going to remember that, and it wasn't true. It's inauthentic, and nobody was buying that. So really has gone in a total globalist team. He switched teams about a year ago. Of course, as we saw, they bombed last July, supposedly ended the nuclear program. And then, of course, we buried the Epstein files. That wasn't good enough, because on February 28th, we went to war with Iran. And so now here we sit with it about 465 to 480 per gallon of gas here in Colorado. That's going to be probably everywhere you go or higher. So you're going to be paying that for some time. Remember, we just got into summer driving season. Okay. And so now we have an artificial boost from that and then another one from Iran. And so, yeah, you should expect to pay $5-6 a gallon from here on out, at least till maybe check the fall. And again, it all comes back down once you leave, but damage is done. The damage is done this time. You don't just walk away from that kind of a impulsive mistake. Israel was going to attack, so we blew up Iran preemptively. It's just not going to work, that kind of thinking. So we asked that the president would kind of get his head back on his shoulders, get his head, and it appears just a little bit that he is with the expressing of, hey, listen, you can't bomb these guys anymore. We're in the middle of peace negotiations because we want peace. Remember, Israel and Bibi, we want peace in the region. That's what he was all about, right? And so now, can you not retaliate? Okay, so that's sensible thinking versus the idea that, oh, don't you lift a finger, Iran? You touch one hair on one Jew's head, we're going to blow you up. That's the mentality that Israel wants him to have. He has to resist that urge. The Mark Levins of the world, the Laura Loomers of the world, this crowd, they're going to be saying they almost hurt a Jewish person. You need to annihilate them. You need to wipe the civilization off the planet. Okay, so these are the things that he's going to have to resist as we go further. And it's so hard for him because part of this, just like Bibi in Israel, part of the problem here is that once this war calms down, the Epstein files are just sitting there waiting. We have no chaos. We have nothing imminent to get to. We can talk strictly, solely, exclusively on the Epstein files. And that's what has to happen next in America. It must be demanded. We see the criminals that you told us didn't exist. So because of that fact, we don't know if there's 6 or 600 perpetrators, but they all have to be investigated now. And now we have to question everything you've ever told us about the Epstein files because you've rolled high-ranking person after another telling us that there was no co-conspirators. Yet Prince Andrew has lost his royal line, his heirship. Jess Staley, all these people are stepping down and they're being actually looked at deeper in places like Europe. They're being investigated. But you're not doing it in the U.S. Why is that? Well, that's because we always are the ones causing chaos to distract us and to make this look less important. But if you strip it down, there's nothing in the world more important than justice for the Epstein file victims. Period. End of story. You have to have justice for them. And then you have to have high level punishment for those that participated inside of this. You cannot allow anybody who looked the other way, who covered this up, who cut a sweetheart deal, who, like Trump is doing, actually preferred to stop the investigation. Trump also has not wanted to look into the Butler assassination. Joe Kent says there was enough to be looked at from a foreign intelligence, from a outside of the U.S. interest in hurting President Trump, killing President Trump. Remember, they told us Iran was going to do that. Of course, that was just laying the seed, the foundation for why we had to go get them, planting that in the ear of Donald Trump. Remember, this is that same country that tried to have you executed, President, and now they're doing this. You can stop them now. And so, of course, he bought a hook, line, and sinker like he did COVID, right? He bought the COVID shot. We know, and it's demonstrable, it's not hard to look this up, go to veris.com, that the COVID-19 shot was the most dangerous vaccine that they've ever put out. Now, no other vaccine reached as many people, right? So most vaccines that hurt as many people as the COVID shot did, it didn't make it to mass scale like COVID did. But this is by far the one that injured the most. It's the one that had the most trance behind it. Somehow people were convinced to go do it a 5th, a 6th, a 7th, an 8th time, a booster, which is totally crazy. I mean, it's just like the craziest time. But that same crowd of people is involved in all the things that we see right now. We're saying this is not anything that the American people signed up for another 4 years of Donald Trump. So I think he's in some of the worst positions because then you also have some economic pressure, not just the inflation, but you have the stock market. And if you saw what happened on Friday, it got lit up like a Christmas tree. Now, of course, we're well overbought. So everybody who saw their 401k just rocket up artificially, they're going to look at that print on Friday and say, that's not good, right? That's looking bad. But we trust President Trump and he will get us through this. And that's that same thinking with the gas and the groceries and all these other things. Trusting President Trump. Let's set aside the Epstein files. Let's go for Iran instead. Let's not deport any of these people, the 20 million that came in. Let's laser focus on Iran. They've bought in that, but I don't know how long they will enjoy a decaying, eroding 401k. I don't think you're going to have a baby boomer that's now paying a lot at the pump, paying a lot for groceries, paying a lot for insurance. He's already, but now his retirement's not looking as good. And now those kind of future gains that he had think, okay, well, we can do it. The math says we'll make it if this happened. Now that's reversing. If you remember 2008, those people didn't get to retire. They had to go back to work because of what happened in stocks. And that's brewing right now because it's all AI. It's 20 stocks. They're all trillions of dollars now. They've blown up. Liquidity has blown them up. Supply of money has blown them up to places, levels that are just not sustainable, $4 and $5 and $6 trillion companies. At some point we got to see, okay, that's too expensive for the amount of revenue you're bringing in, profits you're putting in your shareholders' book. So we know that has to reverse itself at some time. And it's probably rather soon as we've run this thing up to the moon. So is the senior going to accept the higher cost of living? Is the senior going to accept the high cost at the gas and grocery, insurance, services, heating, cooling, all of that, and watch his stocks do this? I don't think he can do that. And so it's maybe just at the core, when we get to the money, that real tug on everybody's pocket, we say, okay, we've had enough war. Thank you much. Now, just stopping the war doesn't just magically make us good again, because a lot of damage has been done. And of course, these stocks were artificially high anyways. And I understand data centers and AI and all of these things are the wave of the future, like the internet. But these are $4 and $5 trillion. These were hundreds of billion-dollar companies on the big side back in the Y2K bubble for the NASDAQ. Hundreds of billions is a big company. Now they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trillion. Okay, so we're not even talking about the scale, the inflation, the bubble that we've created when you take companies to that kind of scale. So we're going to have a fascinating week. We've got a great shows coming up for you this week. Hit subscribe, do this, serve the Lord Jesus Christ. Tell a friend about him. Stay good. God bless everybody.
The Matthew Dark Show, your one-stop show for truth, courage, fellowship, and faith. Available everywhere you get your podcasts.